all of you all are back here today. Today we shall be discussing the five aggregates.
Mudgalayana, you shouldn't be teaching the dharma like that. Let's not get hectic. You see, there's no soul, no sentient being, no life, no birth, no death, no shape, no form, no color, nothing to be abandoned, and nothing to adopt. What is there to teach? The so-called teaching is nothing more than a fabrication, as is so-called listening. And where there's fabrication, not one syllable of the dharma can be uttered. You see, as long as thinking and illusion are considered to be real, there will be delusion. And when there's delusion, there's going to be a path that will liberate you from that delusion. But just as the illusion and the thinking is not real, nor is the path. Very important question. Very good. We teach out of compassion for those who think illusion is real. And we teach out of the love for the Buddha Dharma. You see, for those with very strong habits and those who believe that the snake that they're dreaming about at night is real, so out of compassion, we give them many different kinds of sticks. And once these skillful means are applied, the light of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha will continue to shine.
It's believed that Buddha taught not because he was exhibiting what he knew, but because of compassion. This statement is quite an important statement in the Mahayana study. There is a suffering, there is anxiety, and then there is a cause of the suffering. Even though the cause of the suffering and the suffering are both an illusion, but because there is a delusion, and the delusion is usually a mindset that thinks that an illusion is real. And as this delusion becomes strongly, as this delusion takes root in our mindset, then our projection leads us to pain and anxiety. And this is why the path ends up becoming necessary. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to actualize the truth. The moment you understand the truth, then you are liberated from this delusion. The moment the delusion is liberated, then there is no more suffering. It's that simple from one point of view. On the other hand, the habit of being stuck with the delusion is so strong, path appears to become endless and treacherous and path become very complex. Vimalakirti Sutra is a sutra that teaches the ultimate truth in the most skillful way. As I said yesterday, when Buddha taught, there are teachings that he did not really meant it, but for the specific purpose, he had to teach this way. But Vimalakirti Sutra is a teaching that does not require any explanation, or it is something that can be taken literally. So, so it's like this. The truth. When we talk about truth in Buddhism, it's really something quite fundamental and something so simple. Nothing mysterious, nothing mythical, nothing like, I don't know, extraordinary. And this is always the problem. Because it is so simple, because it is so close to you, you end up missing it. Okay, so if you go through some of the example, even the relative truth, such as all things are impermanent, all compounded things are impermanent, even that, even though it is so evident, so obvious, and it is something that cannot be disputed or refuted, habitually to accept that everything is impermanent is difficult, because we are habituated with hope, fear, but somehow we have this strong denial of things as impermanent. And then the another truth, and this, and I need to point this out, and this fact that everything is impermanent is a simple truth. There's nothing religious about it. There's nothing moralistic about this. It's just the simple truth. And if you understand this truth, if you can actually realize this truth, you immediately get liberated from all kinds of unnecessary entanglement, obviously. The another truth, another level of the truth is that things, as we spoke yesterday, briefly, things are inherently non-existent. And this is one of the main subjects of the Vimalakirti Sutra, otherwise known as the Shunyata. But when we talk about the emptiness or the Shunyata, we are not talking about a negation. We are not talking about some sort of a voidness or kind of a nihilistic extreme. We are talking about the union of appearance and emptiness. Things are there, but not there at the same time. This is a really simple truth, nothing mysterious, nothing, it is really nothing, it's not like a mystery. As we spoke yesterday, some of it we can understand, like when we are watching a film, when we look at a reflection of the moon in the water. We know it is a reflection, we know it is there, but it is simultaneously, it is also not there. From the Vimalakirti Sutra's point of view, everything that we experience, what we hear, what we see, what we go through, every moment is like the reflection of the moon in the water. It's there, but at the same time, it's not there. This, as simple as it is, it's difficult to accept by our habitual mind. The habitual mind falls into two extreme. Sometimes, taking what do you call it? Turn. In other words, sometimes we get carried away by appearance, and then we fall into sort of more eternalism. As an effect of that, we have a lot of, unwise hope, expectations, and blind belief. Other times, when we experience, or when our experience becomes lopsided and experience the emptiness, then we become hopeless, we become nihilist, we go through different kind of, feeling of rejection, feeling of purposelessness, feeling of low self-esteem, so on and so forth. Always never really managing to see that these two are actually simultaneous. It's that simple. And this is actually the ultimate teaching of the Buddha. Then some may wonder, why then we have all this Buddhist paraphernalia of, practice such as mantras, samadhi, meditation, practice of renunciation, temples, rituals, so on and so forth. All these are necessary, all these are a tool to understand this simple truth. But of course, as the Buddha himself said many times, the tools, the teachings, the methods also end up becoming another, distractions, another binding, materialism, basically. And juggling between this challenge, going through this challenge is the biggest challenge generally for everyone, and especially for a spiritual person. We try. There are so many ways are applied. If you go to places like Japan, where they have discipline, such as tea ceremony, such as flower arrangement, such as Zen garden, that are all meant to really take you to this realization of this truth. On the other hand, if you go to like Tibetan temple, you see complicated, elaborated mandalas, shrines, paintings, rituals, chantings, all meant to take you to the realization of this simple truth. We are going to, I think there has been some request of us dwelling on, touching on the subject of meditation this morning, which I will do. But I want to say a few things about the meditation. And this is kind of important. I know meditation has become kind of a trendy thing to do. And this is what I want to say. Meditation is just another method to really realize this truth that I have been repeating. And actually, it's not even, what do you call it? Meditation as we know now is not even that extraordinary method, to tell you the truth. The Tibetan word gom does not really, the Tibetan word gom and the meditation, the term meditation that are now used these days, I think there is a little difference. The Tibetan word gom means habituating, basically getting accustomed to. So it's not, because nowadays when we talk about a meditation, immediately we are talking about something to do with sitting straight, something to do with, like the meditation, mindfulness. Anyway, I think the meditation has now created its own ritual. But the word gom, based on this idea of getting habituated, from that point of view, gom, or the meditation as it is translated, is not necessarily sitting straight. It's anything that reflects, anything that reminds you, anything that takes you closer to this truth. This is why, we have also, for instance, like this time, we thought it is a good idea to actually perform, to really, express the Vimalakirti Sutra subject in the form of actually reciting, performing, and enacting. Because anything that breaks the shell of duality, anything that pulls the rug out from your feet, anything that takes you from a certain zone, the dualistic zone, the normal zone, anything that takes you out of the box, and then not only anything that takes you out of the one box, but immediately destroy the next box. This is what we are, this is what especially in Mahayana Buddhism, called spiritual path. So, flowers, incense, sitting straight, chant, breathing, all this, as long as it is taking you closer to the truth of non-duality, it is considered as the path. But I understand why the technique of, so-called technique of meditation is popular, because I think that technique of meditation somehow now seems, now people seem to think about mindfulness, only the meditation, although actually, if you really look closely, like a Japanese tea ceremony, for instance, or the flower arrangement, or the Tibetan ritual dance, they are all supposedly to bring the mindfulness. Okay, so we are now going to talk about the mindfulness based on the Vimalakirti Sutra's teaching today. And since we have been talking yesterday quite, loyal to the text itself, and the text is very dense, of course. This is a, what do you call it? As I say, it's a, it's a, it's an ultimate teaching, and the subject matter is very deep and vast. Shunyata, prajana paramita, not an easy one. But today, what we will try to do is we will try to water down this a little bit, so that we can at least, have some sort of a idea of, and probably we can even take home, so to speak. Okay, so what is our aim? Our aim is to understand the truth, right? And what is the truth? Something so simple. Right now, I'm giving you two things. One, relative truth, and the another one is the ultimate truth. The relative truth is that all compounded things are impermanent. That's it. There's nothing religious about this, nothing mysterious. It's just the fact. And the ultimate truth at the moment, what I'm telling you, is that how things appears like this, but how it appears is not what it is. That is the simple truth. Okay, let's decide that. So that is the truth that we need to know. We need to realize this. By realizing this, what's the benefit? The result, right? What is there in it for me? Always, human beings tend to ask this: what's the profit? What's the gain? The gain is, if you understand this truth, you will be free from all kinds of unnecessary hope and fear and engagement and entanglement. That freedom is labeled as a nirvana. So it's that simple. And even though I am saying I will water down this a little bit, but actually, fundamentally, it's this is the Mahayana teaching. Okay. Now the next question is, okay, sounds very simple. I'm convinced with this truth. Sounds simple, but how come? Like, how come that I forget that all compounded things are impermanent? As soon as I go to, I plan something. As soon as I go to a shopping, or as soon as I get bothered by somebody, how come I forget this? It makes sense intellectually, but how come I forget this in moment by moment, day to day? How come it doesn't stay in my head? Similarly, how come I keep forgetting that appearance and the emptiness are in union? How come I always divide them? Okay, because you are distracted. So we need to tackle the distractions. How do we do that? So many ways. One most economical, simple way is just knowing what you are thinking. Okay, so right now, this very moment, all of you, notice what you are thinking or not thinking. You may be not thinking anything. Notice that. You may be hearing something. Notice that. You may be, you may be having some sort of a sensation. Notice that. Okay, let's do this now. Okay, you have done it. That's it. This you already have done, and probably this moment, this small one moment of recognition or awareness is probably the best so-called meditation you have done. Moment you want to linger, moment you want to sort of keep it long, then of course things begin to fall apart. You begin to get entangled. But I'm not discouraging you to stay long in that meditation state. I will explain to you a little later. But first, please, you have to learn to satisfy. If you can, from today, if you can notice what you are thinking, let's say 5 times a day, and I'm talking about 1 moment, 2 moments. And if you make the numbers more day by day, let's say in about a week's time, you notice 10 times a day, 20 times a day, 30, 40. What will happen is you will then begin to what is the right word? Jeopardize, make a mess of the usual chain of thoughts. Usually what happens is you have a thought, you don't know what's happened, you don't realize, you don't recognize that. You get entangled, and then there's a chain of thought. And then this chain of thought becomes stronger, and you fall, what do you call it? You act according to that thought. And this is how you get entangled. And then karma, action, which we will talk a little bit later if I remember. So yes, let's keep on doing this time to time. Let's just notice what you are thinking right this very moment. And no need, please, no meditation postures. That's good enough. But now, let's do with a posture. That also helps because it is some form of a discipline. So let us now sit straight. Okay, why do we sit straight? Because you want to isolate yourself from other distractions. Chances of you getting distracted is higher if you are not sitting straight. This is why the masters of the past give us the pith instructions of sitting straight. There's many other methods, such as sitting under the tree, sitting on the top of the mountain, so on and so forth. But right now, in this situation, we can apply sitting straight. So let us sit straight. And whatever the thought comes, just be aware of it. Okay. Remember earlier, they were our friends, they were performing about this is not how, how one meditate. How Vimalakirti was making fun of Rahula, how Vimalakirti was also making fun of Shariputra, because Vimalakirti is teaching the
I'm taking all my.
Vimalakirti is basically deconstructing all the contrived method of meditation. So we will carry on with the meditation methods, and also we will talk about these wisdom in connection with what next episode.
So, gods and goddesses, once when you've reached the stage of non-returning of the great bodhisattvas, then you will be.
Maitreya,
Vimalakirti, why are you here?
I heard, you see, from a little bird that the Tathagata has prophesied that you will be the next Buddha. Is this true?
Yes, Lord Buddha proclaimed that. It will happen in my next reincarnation.
Reincarnation. Can you spell reincarnation? You see, I'd like to understand what's being reincarnated. Who's being reincarnated? Will the reincarnated being be the same in the next life or different?
Good question, Vimalakirti.
You see, Maitreya, when you become the next Buddha, you see, everybody will also become the next Buddha. When you become completely realized, that means everyone here, everywhere, will also be realized. What does it mean when we turn around and say, may all sentient beings attain enlightenment? You see, from the absolute point of view, all phenomena has been completely devoid of defilements, flaws, and negative emotion. And since that statement is true, we can be confident in the fact that all sentient beings will attain enlightenment. And you, my pretty gods and goddesses, look at you guys. What do you think enlightenment is? It's like a never ending holiday. You may not have to do nothing. Get over the hustle and bustle of samsara. No appointments, no work, nothing. What do you think it is? You know, crossing over something, shrugging off, finishing. Tell me. Do you think enlightenment is this supreme state which we refer to as nirvana? Absolutely not. Since everything from the beginning has been pure, how can you purify anything? And you, Maitreya, if you are saying anything different to these gods and goddesses, you're deceiving them. Don't deceive them. You see, enlightenment is not a never ending holiday in Goa or in Hawaii. How many sunsets will you see before you go mad? And no genuine bodhisattva will ever want to spend forever doing nothing. You see, enlightenment is beyond the body and the mind. It's got no references at all. It's beyond reference. Enlightenment is beyond the subjective mind. Enlightenment is beyond reference. Enlightenment cannot be wished for. How can you wish for enlightenment? Enlightenment is knowing that everything is equal.
Recently, when I was in Europe, I was talking about relative teachings of the Buddha. I was talking about how Buddha chose to teach a lot of teachings without he really meant it. And I, just for the sake of communication, I labeled it as a Cinderella teachings. And I later realized in the social media, lot of Buddhists were so angry, saying that how can he, Buddhist teacher, denigrate Buddha Dharma into something like a Cinderella. This is a little, it was kind of shocking because it really made me realize how much we, as a follower of the Buddha, we also don't really appreciate and understand the teachings of the Buddha. When I say Cinderella teachings, I really it wasn't really I wasn't really denigrating or looking down at these teachings. Actually, so many of the teachings, majority of the teachings, are in the category of Cinderella teachings, where the teachings were, as just now what happened, teachings where Buddha mentioned words like samsara, nirvana, ignorant sentient being, you should now work hard. You should then, slowly, you will dispel your ignorance and then reach enlightenment. These are all Cinderella teachings. Why? Because you need to, okay, the point is this, as Shantadeva said, Dungal never shidundu, Devi Mongba Domija. Why are we following a path? Because we think we are suffering. Not only we think, actually we do feel suffering. Even though it is, yes, we do feel, the suffering is real, it's painful, it's unbearable. Even though it is in your mind, but that doesn't help, we do feel. So, Shantadeva said, for a practitioner, for a follower of the Buddha, for the time being, you should keep one ignorance. And that ignorance is thinking that there is an enlightenment. And this, when Maitreya said to his disciples, gods and goddesses, that when I become the Buddha in the future, when I become Buddha in the future, on the 2 points, Vimalakirti challenges him, saying, first, on the relative level, he challenged Maitreya by saying, what do you mean by future? What is reincarnation? See, even the teachings of the reincarnation that is taught in Buddhism is a relative teachings. It is a teachings that he did not really meant it. But please keep in mind, when we say he did not really meant it, it's not like a lower class teachings. It's a very important teaching. Why? Because as long as you have a delusion, you need a path, even though path itself is an illusion. So, for instance, karma. This is where probably the interpretation of the Buddhist karma and the Hindu karma differs. Because when we are talking, in Buddhism, karma is a very important subject. But again, The thorough understanding of the karma can only happen when you understand shunyata. In other words, the thorough understanding of the karma can only happen when you understand appearance and the emptiness as a something, not something that you cannot separate, as something one. Then the karma can, you can understand the karma. Okay, so when we talk about a future, we are talking about a time. We are talking about continuity. We are talking about agent. We are talking about an action. We create an action, and then this action will ripe into some kind of a result. So we are already talking about a time. And this is when Maitreya is teaching to his disciples, this was what Vimalakirti challenged. And the other point that Vimalakirti was challenging is the Buddha. How can you say, I will become Buddha when I become Buddha? Because everybody, every beings are Buddha already. That ignorance, karma, all these are temporary. It is an illusion. It is not a real thing. This need to be realized. And again, coming back to the, what do you call it, the technique or the method to actualize this, awareness, mindfulness. Mindfulness, and when we talk about mindfulness, no need to even think of these teachings. We are not talking about this kind of mindfulness. We are talking about simply being mindful of what you are thinking right this very moment. And what does it do? Because moment you are aware of what you are thinking right now without judgment, you are not contriving, you are simply being aware of this thought. What happens? You are not engaging. You are not being obsessed. You are not getting entangled. You are not making story. Of course, especially for the beginners, the duration of simply watching is very, very short. You will watch simply for maybe one moment. The next moment, you are not simply watching. You are now watching it with some sort of intellect. You are now watching not innocently. You are now watching with interpretation, quotations of the Buddhist teachings, things that you have heard, and then your own judgment. Then, of course, it is no more fresh. But at that time, when you simply just watch, you will not be entangled. You are not entangled. And when you are not entangled, what does that mean? It means that you will not think, you will have no delusion of thinking compounded things are impermanent, naturally. Why do we keep on mistaking compounded things as a permanent? Because we are entangled. So again, let us first sit and just be aware of this thought for a few moments. It could be the birds. It could be the traffic noise. doesn't have to be special. Never look for any kind of a special thought. Mundane, completely ordinary, completely mundane thought. Just be aware of that. I'm not asking you to do love and compassion. I'm not asking you to do anything extraordinary like love and compassion or bodhicitta or any of these. I'm not asking you to pray. I'm not asking you to think of a God or a Buddha or some sublime beings. You could be thinking of the things that you ate this morning. Sound of the fan, the light. Or you have no thoughts, no specific thoughts. You in fact feel dull, muggy. Or you are thinking, my thoughts are so fast, I can't catch. Whatever you are thinking, just be aware of that. The past has gone, it's never going to come back. The future, the next moment, we don't know what it is. It's not materialized yet. The only thing you have is this moment. This is all you have. If you are thinking something hideous, something non-virtuous, something immoral, just be aware of that. Do not reject. Okay, please stop sitting straight, but continue being aware of this moment thought. Whatever it is. Okay, maybe I will let you ask some questions. Yeah. If you have any specific questions regarding the meditation or Vimalakirti Sutra.
Hi, Rinpoche. My question is when you're talking about being aware of thought, when it comes to our reflex actions, right? Like if some reflexes, like if someone's hitting us and we automatically. So is it to that level where you're even doing that mindfully, you're aware and not just automatically getting into some sort of an out? I thought of this morning in the shower when I was like putting
Okay.
soap. So
Lots of this reflex may be an effect of a hidden habit. It's like whatever is your name, if I call, there's an immediate, undoubt response. You will be the one who will be responding this. You understand? So the Buddhists believe that reflex are most of the reflex are actually all the reflex are the very strong, what they call undercurrent habitual pattern. Mind, so-called the mind that we have, and by the way, the Tibetan word is maybe it is, we have a mind, something called mind, which is many times unfortunate to have because it ends up always knowing something, feeling something, cognizing something, confirming something, you understand, referring to something. But at the same time, mind is very powerful. Without the mind, there is no you. There is nothing. But the mind has something that no other, what do you call it, entity or phenomena has, which is the power of self-awareness. But this self-awareness is not really a reflex. It is its nature. But most of the time, we do not use this self-awareness. We use mostly subject and object kind of awareness. And worse, when a subject is noticing an object without realizing that actually the object that you are recognizing is just another face of your subject, we end up thinking it exists outside of you. So this is how you divorce the subject and object. And this is another way, another way of the growth and the emerging of duality, subject and object duality. And then again, the suffering comes. I think the word suffering need to be defined a little bit here. I think every time I use the word suffering, first of all, the English word suffering is not doing the justice. It is not only talking about a pain or physical pain or mental pain. That, of course, that's a much gross suffering. Much more subtle suffering here is anything that is bound by time. Anything that is subject to time is, from the Buddhist point of view, it's suffering or a pain. And the reason is anything that is bound by time means uncertain. You don't know what's next. And not knowing what's next is very, very, it's like the cause, is a fundamental cause of anxiety. An even more profound character of the suffering is anything that has a duality. Anything that is dualistic is suffering. Dualistic. Because dualistic means reference. Reference means comparison. Comparison means hope and fear. Okay. Any more question? Whoever. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. When practicing awareness, being detached and not entangled, how to avoid becoming like cold and non-empathic and detached from others?
When practicing what?
Yeah.
Can you?
Oh, when practicing awareness,
Mhm.
like being detached and not entangled,
Mhm.
how to avoid falling into being detached from others and non-empathic and like cold?
Okay. I think you should not worry about that one. I think if you, I think hmm, instead of worrying, okay, if you think that is a problem, maybe what you need to do is you need to be aware that this is what is happening in your head. You understand? Yeah. So if you think that is a problem in your head, then watch that anxiety that this is a problem. You understand? I'm giving you a simple, but it's actually, uh, I think this is better. There's a, you can apply some other methods, but the other methods may end up becoming a problem itself. Okay, we will now do a more traditional one. This time, quite strict. So you are allowed to, if those who are following the tradition of opening the eyes, you can open eyes. Then I guess you will blink sometimes. You are allowed to breathe, of course. You are allowed to swallow saliva if you need to sometimes. Other than that, no coughing, no movement, no scratching, no yawning, nothing. And I will explain to you a little later, but simply sit. This time you are not even watching your mind. All you are doing is sit, but not moving. You understand? Nothing to do with the mind. No need to do what we did earlier. But this time you're just sitting. And I will let you sit for some time. But before that, please cough and yawn and scratch if you need. Okay, so we will begin. Okay, please sit straight. Okay, so we stop here. And I think there's a next.
Hello.
Okay.
Welcome. Welcome, O Kausika, welcome. Make your life meaningful. Don't be too greedy. Use your precious body meaningfully.
Okay, sir, sure. Why don't you accept from me these 12,000 divine maidens and make them your servants?
What? Did, did you just offer a monk women? You know that the sons of Sakya are celibate. And you offered me women. Offering one woman to a monk is downright offensive, and you have offered me a whole flock.
Hey, Jatindadhara! What's up with you, man? Can't you see? Look! This is not the Lord of Lords. This is Mara, the devil, the Satan. It was his intention to deceive you. You've been deceived. Look! And you, Mara! What's wrong with you? How can you offer monk women? What does he need women for? So I tell you what. You will give them to me instead.
Gosh, this Lichavi is really terrifying. Thank Jimin I can disappear whenever I want and get as far as possible from this guy.
There's a voice from the sky. Mara, unless and until you give your women to Vimalakirti, you will not be able to disappear.
What a damn day. This guy is just getting lucky. You! All these beautiful girls, all yours.
Good move. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
You see, now that you're all mine, the first thing you guys are going to do is make the Bodhisattva vow. You see, when we make the Bodhisattva vow, we don't just offer to help beings and not only not to harm them, but we promise to show them the absolute truth.
Really?
I have no idea how I was so easily deceived by Mara. I mean, she's a beautiful goddess, but I somehow I just managed to, apply every method, because I almost had an instant crush on one of these girls, but that's okay. I applied every method, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was able to apply it, and somehow I managed to evade it. But Vimalakirti, I mean, a man so legendary for his unbridled self-indulgence, he was so easily able to resist Mara. I have no idea how he did it. Unbelievable.
So we were talking, now that you've taken the Bodhisattva vow, you also can't just wish for these mundane, pathetic, worldly joys. You can only wish for the supreme bliss and supreme joy.
What is this supreme joy?
Supreme joy is to know the Buddha. Supreme joy is to admire the Sangha and the Dharma. Supreme joy is to long to hear the words of the Dharma. Supreme joy is to hang out with those that share the same views as you. Views like all compounded things are impermanent. All emotions are pain. Supreme joy is also to be tolerant and patient towards those that don't share the same views as you. Supreme joy is to pay homage to the Guru. This is supreme joy.
Wonderful.
Are you guys done? Okay, let's go home.
But you just gave us away to him.
Aren't you supposed to be a bodhisattva? Give up these girls right now. Have no attachments.
Okay, you can have them back. And now it's time for you and your bloody entourage to get out of here. Get out.
But you just made us take the Bodhisattva vow, and now you're sending us back to this Mara's world where it is dark and sinful and degenerate. Oh, please don't do this. How will we cope? Don't.
Listen. Understand something. You guys will be far better in Mara's world than in mine. You see, go and light the inexhaustible lamp of Dharma. Just as a candle can ignite 100,000 other candles without its own light being diminished, one bodhisattva can ignite bodhicitta in hundreds and thousands of own people without his own bodhicitta going down. So go to the land of Mara. Go and ignite the lamp of the Dharma. You see, it's your responsibility to go to sleazy places, degenerate places, unholy places, not avoid them. So let's all go
Yes,
to this Mara's land. You can also come.
we can do that.
And ignite the Bodhis.
Let's go.
Actually, this episode is really important, especially I think this is what I was saying yesterday, that I'm actually even puzzled a little bit that why the Vimalakirti Sutra became so successful and very, very venerated in China. Because you hear that the Chinese Mahayana Buddhists, they have this very kind of a very they raise their eyebrow when they look at Tantrayana, Vajrayana. But as you can see in the Vimalakirti Sutra, Vimalakirti is telling the ladies who have just taken the Bodhisattva vow, and it's a very, very important teaching here. He says, okay, we have taken the Bodhisattva vow. Now we don't want to go to the world. We don't want to go to the, mundane world of business, family. We want to be renounced and we want to go to the cave. We want to become nun, monk, whatever. But the Vimalakirti says the opposite. No, you should go. What's the point of having a lamp if there is so much light? The lamp is useless where there is a light. Lamp must be lit in the darkness. So yes, go and do your thing. Be businessman, be politician, be barber, be pilot, be whatever, doctor, be whatever. You need to engage. You need to stay there, and then benefit yourself and others. Hopefully, the Vimalakirti Sutra is a really very, very big sutra, so it needs to sort of decipher in many, many ways. Hopefully, that Vimalakirti, some of you will appreciate this, and I don't know. I think this sutra, even though I think this sutra should really speak to 21st century mind and 21st century habit. Please continue with your questions if you have. Maybe I think we are. And, before the question, I ask you to just sit. This practice very much favored again in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana also. In fact, there's the whole tradition of the Drupakaju that is practiced within the Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhist system. They have this practice of just sitting. In Japan, this is a very big. You are basically doing nothing. You are not praying. You are doing nothing. You are not even watching your mind. That watching your mind is that is already a big job. Here it's so simple. You are just sitting. And what does it do? With the right motivation, and when I say right motivation, I'm talking about the motivation to understand the truth for oneself and for the sake of others. So if you have this motivation of understanding the truth for others, we are talking about motivation accompanied by compassion. With that motivation, just sitting, I mean, we may have not sat long enough, but if you sit, this one might require a little bit, little bit of a time. Or what I'm saying is, it would be good if you are doing just sitting meditation. It would be good if you can sit for 10 to 20 minutes long, because then it has its impact. The other one, the one that we did earlier, literally, you can be aware of your mind for a moment or two. That's all, without even requiring to sit. You can do it while lying down, while, dancing, walking. But of course, chances of being aware, being mindful of your mind while sitting is always high, just because of conditioning. Now, to the one that we just did, sitting, if you sit and sit and sit, what will happen? The impact of this sitting: agitation, frustration, getting bored. Do you know why you get bored? Because you are beginning to be aware of yourself. That's why you are getting bored. Isn't it strange? Because you are not interesting. Just simple you, just yourself. So just sitting makes you feel frustrated, bored, agitated. You need to be occupied. You are looking for a remote control. You are looking for for a phone or something. You need to be engaged. But here you apply the discipline of not engaging, just sitting, simply sitting. And not only that, what does it do? It makes you aware of your body. And this is one of the most important stages of the vipassana. I know there's a lot of vipassana. I mean, the vipassana is taught everywhere, but the vipassana comes in 4 stages or 4 different categories. One is the vipassana of a body, basically your form. Body is important. The moment you think of yourself or someone else, what are you thinking about? You are thinking about a form, a body of somebody, shape, color, height, width, length, or even more complex, their style, their, their choice of their dress, choice of their tie, so on and so forth. So form is the most upfront reference of so-called I, me, you. So simply sitting, and let's hear one question, and then when we come back, we will do some other simple things like simply listening, just listening. And during the tea break, if you are not too occupied and not too entangled with some other things, when you are drinking tea or eating biscuits, if you can just simply taste, simply eat, just for a moment or two. I'm not asking for long. Okay, please, one more question. Yeah.
Rinpoche, thank you so much. My question is just building on the themes we've been discussing around impermanence and illusion and future illusion. What is your position on why we work? Because, in a way, isn't work or working just bringing to the now future suffering?
Right. Yes. That's a good understanding and that's a good realization. Well, there's 2 things you can do. If you have the condition, if you have the means, and if you really see, if you really, really see the meaningless and futility of working, then you should, what do you call it, stop working and explore, search, ask, and seek. That's what the past ancestors of this land have done. That's one. Second, and I think that is something more Vimalakirti, what he would suggest, carry on working. Do your work, whatever you are doing, but keep on thinking it's useless. A reluctant worker working is much better than a worker who believes in this illusion as real. You understand? The second part, that's the sort of the Vimalakirti's. You keep on knowing that this is futile. Yeah? But you are doing it maybe for the family, maybe for some other reasons, but you do it also. It's more like, I was explaining this to a girl yesterday. If you are dreaming, and then suddenly in the middle of the dream you fall from the cliff, and then in the middle of falling you suddenly realize it's just a dream, then probably you would decide to fall more, because why not? Because it's not going to harm you much. You understand? There's not so much panic, or you are released already. So likewise, Vimalakirti would say, carry on working and think that it's, after all, is not the most important. So when you do that, what will happen is, let's say you suddenly become, your work become very successful. Now that's something you have to be careful, because success is more dangerous than the obstacle. When you are successful, not too excited. Failure, not too disappointed. You are calm, you are under control, and you are bright, you are radiant, you are majestic, you are elegant. And then suddenly all your friends look at you and say, hey, what are you eating? Are you eating ginseng or something? You understand? And this will have an impact on them. And this is what the Vimalakirti is talking about just now with the, like you should engage, you should work, but have the awareness. And these are really classic Mahayana teachings. Okay. Shall we have a break, tea break? Okay.
Hey, Ananda,
Hey, Vimalakirti, what's up, man?
what are you doing here? What? What did you just say? Ananda, just move away from here. You can't say such things. The Buddha has crushed all non-virtue. He's like a Vajra. How could he possibly fall sick? Just, Ananda, lower your voice. No one should hear what you're saying. Do you realize how devastating this could be? The gods, they're clairvoyant. They know exactly what you're thinking. And what about the great bodhisattvas? Do you know? You'll never be able to show your face here again. And what about the other religions? What about the people from the other religions? What will they think? Do you know how devastating this is for us? They will think that the Buddha can't even cure himself of a trivial illness. How is he going to meet the aspirations of enlightening all sentient beings? Huh? Tell me. Why are you acting like this? Ananda, the Buddha has crushed all non-virtue. He's beyond compounded phenomena. He's beyond time. He's beyond emotion. How can he fall ill? And how can he get well again?
That's true. How didn't I realize that?
There's another voice from the sky. Those looking for milk, skimmed, half and half, full fat, whatever kind of milk. The Tathagata appeared on this planet to tame degenerate beings. And sometimes he will look unwell, he will look thirsty, he may look hungry. And beings will accumulate merit if they serve him. So don't be afraid, Ananda. Go, offer the Buddha some milk.
I will let you ask more questions, but before that, I want to clarify this. What we have been doing, like this morning, a moment of awareness, moment of mindfulness, all these are prescribed, taught in the sutras and the shastras. I just want to say I'm not sort of making up these. I think I'm quite a traditionalist when it comes to the teachings and the methods. If today someone asks me to summarize Buddhism, then I will say this. View, meditation or practice, behavior or action, conduct, and the result. On 4 levels or 4 categories, we can distinguish Buddhism. Okay, so the view, practice or meditation. I like the word practice better than meditation. And then behavior, conduct, and the result. Out of these 4, the most important obviously is the view. If you lose this view, then just conduct and the practice it has no ground. And I want to stress this because meditation has become fashionable, kind of understandable in the very stressful 21st century life. Maybe some people are finding meditation useful. But so it's like this. Let me first go through these four categories. When we talk about a view, what distinguishes Buddhism from the rest is something called 4 seal, or 3 seal will also do, actually. But 4 seals are, Buddhists believe that all compounded things are impermanent, all emotions are pain, and nothing has inherently existing nature, and the nirvana is beyond any extreme. This is the fundamental view of Buddhism. If you lose that, then it's not really it may look like, it may appear like, it may sound like Buddhism, but it's actually not Buddhism. Fundamentally, the most important. Okay? Now, let's go to the 4th one, the result. How do you define a result of Buddhism? What is it that Buddhists are looking for? What do you get by being Buddhist and practice Buddhism? What is the final reward? Okay, the result. How do you define result in Buddhism? It's really important you know this. In Buddhism, actually, no result is defined by what you get. You understand? What you get. Actually, in Buddhism, there's nothing to get. Really important that you know. You have to make note of this. Then why are we going through all this? So in Buddhism, the way the result is defined is, in Tibetan, we call it dande, which means result of elimination. There's nothing to get, but there is things to eliminate, purify. deconstruct. Deconstruct. The word Buddha summarizes all of this. The word Buddha has the element of awakening. Awakening is not a quality to get, the word awakening is elimination of a sleep or ignorance. So the result is always defined by elimination, not something you add on. This is very important in Buddhism. Okay? Now, as long as you have the view, that view that I was talking earlier, and if your path is aimed for that, then no matter what you do, or how you do, or what method you apply, it is a path to, what is it? It is the path of the Buddha. So based on this, meditation or the practice, how do we define meditation? The Buddhist meditation must go against duality. If the meditation is not going against duality, then it is not a Buddhist meditation. Or if you don't want to go against duality and still want to meditate, you can. You don't have to go against. Your aim is not to go against the duality, but you want to meditate. Then you better be off downloading some good software that, there's a really good apps where it teaches a lot of meditations here, how to sit and breathe in, breathe out, relax, Those things will do the job. And much better than the Buddhism anyway. Because anyway, your purpose of meditation is just another gadget to make your life comfortable, like a vacuum machine, like the phone charger, like the fridge. You have meditation also. But if you are aiming for the result of elimination, then the standard meditation won't do. So how do you define Buddhist meditation? It has to go against the duality. This is what Vimalakirti is going on and on about. It's really. Now, how do you define Buddhist behavior? Now, this is kind of interesting. Buddhist behavior is never lopsided or extreme. And this is demonstrated so well, especially if you go to like the Tibetan Buddhist area. You can observe this very clearly. You will see monks who would relentlessly shave their hair, and that's their behavior. That's the conduct they have dedicated their life towards. Shave hair, robes and all of that. But on the other hand, you have yogis who only worries that their hair will drop. The single lock of a hair is so precious. Not only they don't shave, they treasure the hair. So, there's one extreme of shaving, and the other, keeping the hair. So the behavior, as long as it's not contradicting the view, and as long as it is taking you to the result of elimination, the behavior really is not the big, as long as the behavior is non-extreme, or what do you call it, not lopsided. So this is why I was talking about, just before the break, we were discussing about how to go on with your work and at the same time, appreciate the work and see the futility of the work. I just wanted to tell you this. And during the break, they were, so what we have been doing, like a one moment of meditation or awareness, this is said and expressed in the sutras many, many times. In the Samadhi Raja Sutra, Buddha said, if a person momentarily be aware, Tingenzin. Tingenzin means basically, holding together, not going astray. That's what it means, basically, not going astray, holding it together, get your act together. That's what actually thing is in, or the samadhi really means. Get your act together, get your mind together, not going here and there. If a person can do this momentarily, Shakyamuni Buddha said, it is far more important and far more powerful and far more meritorious than making offerings to the thousands of the Buddhas, so on and so forth. So, time and again in the sutras and the shastras, the method such as momentarily doing awareness is mentioned. So, based on this, because I know the moment the words like meditation is mentioned, because of the some culture, we immediately think in terms of sitting straight and doing with some sort of a procedure. And the procedure is, you sit straight, you have a zafu, you then face here, face there, your eyes are open or closed. All these procedures sometimes become a hindrance. And I just want to sort of mention this and let you know that this path exists. If you know this, I think you have much more opportunity and you become much more open with the so-called practice, because, if you narrow down, if you make your spiritual path, if you make it very narrow, like I will only meditate in the morning, I will meditate in front of a shrine, I will meditate sitting straight, then chances of you meditating gets less and less, because not all mornings you will be free, not all mornings you'll be in good mood, not all mornings, I don't know. And many times your toilet will be the best place to meditate, much better than the shrine. Who knows? All that. So instead, if you can grab the chance of being aware anywhere, maybe on a hammock with one hand holding a glass of champagne or something, grabbing that chance, because moment you are aware, this is a little bit of a crude example, but I can't think of any other better example. I'm sorry if it's disrespectful to some of you guys. If you are peeing in the toilet, what will you do if someone looked at you from the front? I sort of remember this when you were talking about the reflex. You were mentioning your reflex, until you have actualized how to unite outrageousness and elegance, you will immediately stop your peeing, isn't it? You will not have, of course, if you have actualized this outrageousness and elegance, the union of this, then probably you will not only pee, but you might end up shitting also, without any qualms. And not only you do that, it may inspire the other. Like the other person may be, wow, here is a cool, unnerving, confident person. And just that sight and the smell and everything will really have an impact on the person for life. This could happen. What was it? Okay, I'm getting distracted here. What was it I was saying earlier? Yeah, don't narrow your path. Make it as simple and as. And this is like a. Okay, I think the like a cows eating grass. Cows don't wait until a big chunk of grass. If they see one blade of grass, they eat. If they see a lot of grass, of course they eat. But they don't wait, okay, they don't wait till the next chunk of grass. Likewise, you are supposed to grab, and especially in the 21st century, for the modern mind, it's really important. And oh yeah, this is what I was saying. So if you keep on doing that, if you keep on doing with the, okay, don't forget, with the view, that view that I was talking earlier, and with the aim of that nirvana that I was talking about, with that motivation, if you keep on merely, simply being aware of the present moment, that is compassion meditation. And I want to elaborate this a little bit, because I know a lot of people think compassion is having some sort of empathy, understanding people's situation, putting your feet in someone else's shoes. Yes, that is a compassion. But according to Mahayana Buddhism, according to Vimalakirti people, it's what we call Semchenla Mikbi Nyingje, which is actually kind of a common class compassion. The Buddhists talk about it, but it's nothing that uncommon, nothing special. It's subjective, objective compassion. You see somebody you look at somebody, you try to understand their position, you try to have empathy with them. But what is even better compassion than that is knowing that everybody is subject of time. Everything, not only everybody, everything is subject of time. Time, everything is changing all the time. When you know this uncertainty, and what better way to understand this uncertainty than merely simply being aware of this moment mind. Because when you know this, as Milarepa said, Milarepa, one of the great Tibetan masters, he said, the biggest show, inexhaustible show, is if you watch your mind. The thoughts come and go, and you watch. And then when you can understand this uncertainty of what is the next thought, and then when you look at others who don't understand this uncertainty, yet they are so engrossed, thinking, totally denying this uncertainty, and totally, delusional, thinking things as a certain, as permanent. You have another layer of compassion, much, much, much more sophisticated, not touchy-feely kind of compassion, much, much grander compassion. And on the top of that, non-dual compassion. Now that's the highest compassion. Moment you are merely present, moment you just know as your thoughts are coming, what does it do? You do not distinguish, you do not judge. You let the thought come, you don't get entangled. More and more you realize that getting entangled is the problem. You look at others who constantly get entangled with their thoughts. And then at first maybe you almost want to tell them, it's just your thoughts. But you know that they will never hear what you say. What do? You act according to them. Be skillful. You play act. You cry with them. You answer their questions. You ask questions. You, I don't know, pet shoulders. You lend your shoulder to them so that they can cry. All this you engage, but at the same time, you are not stained. Just like Vimalakirti said, lotus born in the mud, but the mud not staining the lotus. This is the highest compassion. So this is also, I'm just elaborating more on the conversation between Vimalakirti and Shariputra. This is, of course, I'm not doing the justice to the teaching. And anyway, during the break, someone asked me, how about dullness? If you are dull, if you feel sleepy, if you are dull, just another phenomena that you have to be aware of. And do you know what? Moment you are aware of your thought, that mundane thought has become holy. If you want something holy, you want to be holy, you want the moment to be holy. Do you want to turn this into a holy place? Because how do you define holy? Holy. Holy in the, what is it? I'm just picking up one word called sapame, unstained. Holy, unstained, undefiled. That is what makes something holy. Nothing to do with a halo or a third eye or some sort of a supernatural power. What makes something so holy when it is totally unstained by defilements? Just like the lotus. So the moment you are aware of the thought, without judgment, without distinguishing anything, that very moment you are unstained. And believe it or not, at that very small moment, momentarily, you are holy. You are experiencing holiness. You have turned that mundane, dull, completely ordinary state into something holy. And therefore, wherever you are sitting, sleeping, lying down, dancing, walking, that place has also become holy. That time has also become holy. Do you want to ask some more questions? Is there some more episode? I think so. Is there some more? Can you ask? Yeah. How many more? I forgot. Yes, please ask the question. Please.
Thank you, Rinpoche. In the book, in the Vimalakirti Sutra, there is a mention of talk between Manjushri and Vimalakirti when Vimalakirti says that even the Tathagata is not free, is not liberated until unless all the sentinel beings are liberated. So I was under the impression that the Tathagata are supposed to be liberated and free. But
Yes.
is that a contradiction or is that what it is?
Wow, how do you answer this one? How do we In one way, it is a contradiction. And and it's a deliberate contradiction. Vimalakirti, as I've been saying, Vimalakirti Sutra is a teaching that does not, it's a direct teaching. It's a like an ultimate teaching. Remember, I was giving you the example of a magic show yesterday. You are the audience, and I'm the magician, and this guy who doesn't even know what is happening. And let's say my magic is kind of really bad here. It's really kind of very negative, scary. You understand? And this magic is really actually making you scared, sweating, all of that. And that's the samsaric experience. Yeah? Now, someone else suddenly tells you, look, 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 you know, you are in pain because you are so scared. Then someone else said, look, look, this is an illusion. It's not really happening. It was just a trick. Then you have a relief. Relief. That's a nirvana. Nirvana. Now, what the Vimalakirti is saying is actually that cause of your paranoia never existed in the first place. It was a magic. So, therefore, the relief is also fake. You got it? It's like waking up from a bad dream, like a spider eating you. Spider never existed. All along, you are peacefully sleeping on your bed. Yet you felt in your dream, you got bitten by a spider. So, relief of, oh, no spider, is a fake. You understand? Now, the third person who is beyond all of that, meaning never had to go through the paranoia, therefore no relief of the paranoia, is what Vimalakirti is talking about. So, yes, in one way it is a contradiction because we are talking about a relief and the nirvana in connection with samsara and the nirvana. And then we are talking about a Tathagata who is always enlightened, not like newly enlightened. That's what Vimalakirti is talking about. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I have a question about the various techniques that one could use. Within Buddhism, there's so many. And how do you know if you're not just distracting yourself or entertaining yourself and not wanting to be just with discomfort? So, okay, this technique isn't working, now I'm going to go on a pilgrimage.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a very good question. Our mind always wants to make something comfortable. Our ego, our self-clinging. This is why I was talking about the view, meditation, action, and the result. Supposedly you are to refer to this, whatever you are applying, the method is in conjunction or is it contradicting with these. But of course it's difficult. Okay, the way to do the check and balance, so to speak. Yeah, is that what you? If the path, how should I put it? If the path is becoming it's like this. I'll give you the example. Okay. It's like this. I'm sorry, I have to use a classic example and some Buddhist jargon here. Initially, some of us may be taught practices such as view, view, tawa. And then tsultim means discipline. Maybe there is a certain discipline you are encouraged to do. And as you practice this, then either you are a teacher or you are teaching, as you practice this, is supposed to then introduce you to different sets of defilements. And those defilements are what we call tawa chokzin, suchim chokzin, which means thinking that this view is supreme and this discipline is supreme. Basically, when you begin to love antidote, yeah, when you begin to love the antidote, then you are not progressing. You have to have the discipline to apply the antidote initially, but you have to be brave to not trust this antidote. So this will be always challenging, but this is why in the Tantrayana, they always say that the master is very important, who will then always give you the right amount, right dosage, and the timely information to, at times let you fall for a certain antidote. And then just as you are beginning to feel comfortable with one antidote, then another antidote is applied to get rid of that antidote. Nyempo chosen, we call it. Basically, cherishing antidote. Okay, it's like this. Oh. Actually, Shakyamuni Buddha did that. If you put his teachings in 3 categories based on time, in Varanasi, he taught teachings such as Four Noble Truths, because he wanted people to not to be non-virtuous. He wanted people to be virtuous, right? Then on the Vulture's Peak, I'm putting it in a very human, mundane language. He realized that people are getting too narcissist for being virtuous, you understand, and being so righteous, so to speak. So then he taught the Prajna Paramita, where he slashed ego, self. Shunyata was taught. And then he realized, so to speak, not that, he's an omniscient being, he has already planned these things long before. He realized antidote of the shunyata, if you are attached to that, is really not good. He in fact told Kashyapa, ego as big as Mount Meru is nothing. It's okay. He said, that's fine. But clinging to shunyata, even as small as a sesame seed, is much, much worse. So there he taught all the other teachings, such as Tathagata Garbha and all of that. So, but I think the most simple answer for you here is, as soon as you feel comfortable and when you are beginning to use your antidote as your hideout, someone needs to shrug that, someone needs to deconstruct that, or you should always be critical and suspicious. This is also the ingredient of the path. Ingredient of the path, you need 2 things. You need to believe and you need to doubt. Belief is as precious as the doubt. Doubt is also very discriminating wisdom. So those 2 will have to sort of, and there's a very, very thin line between doubt and belief. Okay, maybe the next. Okay, are you guys, can they do something and then we carry on? Are they ready? Okay. How many more? 5.
Yeah. No, first they set up.
This is the long one? Okay. Okay, maybe we have one chance for one question while they are doing this.
So Rinpoche, I need your help with sex as practice. Because it's to me it's an incredible union of appearance and emptiness.
Okay.
And I keep trying, but my God, there's just so many entanglements. You know, the desire of the union, the achievement of the union.
I think it's about to happen here. Looks like.
Really?
Okay.
So should I join them and maybe I will learn something?
You are already here. Okay. Then tell me.
Well, so to me, it's personally, it's a very powerful path, but it's just so fraught with all the,
Okay.
all
I
the
will
entanglements.
I will answer you within the Vimala. I'm not going to talk about the Tantra.
No, Vimalakirti.
Okay, Vimalakirti.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Here we have important discussions at the moment. Well, we know the character of the Vimalakirti. I'm trying to find a sort of a simple way to sort of articulate this one. Desire is very important on 3 levels. Actually, since we are talking about the Mahayana, on 2 levels. Okay? Let's say Asharvaka, you know what I'm talking about, the Theravadan. If a human being doesn't have a desire, how do you become a monk? What's the point of becoming monk? So there, we pay homage to the desire because of the desire, there's a path called renunciation. Path of, renouncing the act of desire. You got that one? Okay. Now the Vimalakirtis. What is desire? Isn't desire embracing? Part of it? Lot of, embracing. And also, the desire have this thing about uniting. And there's a conflict in our mind. There's a constant, part of us really want to unite. The habit really, what is the opposite of united? Divorce? What do you call it? How do you, separate? Is this like whole habit of separating subject and object, appearance and existence, male and female, feminine and masculine, everything, all kinds of, part of us. But that part is the habitual part. You understand? But the other part, while we are having that kind of separating thoughts, the very mind that try to separate also is the very mind that wants to unite, get together. All kinds of, from the engagement ring, marriage, everything is about uniting. So this is the, if you like, the positive energy or the good side, if you like, of the desire. This embracing. Like compassion to the sentient beings, love and compassion to the sentient beings. There is the element of embracing, uniting, empathy. Beyond that, you need to talk to someone like Saraha, because it's not in the department of the Vimalakirti.
Manjushri and these great bodhisattvas are coming. I must make this place empty.
Vimalakirti, how are you?
Manjushri, welcome.
What ails you? You don't look well. What's the nature of your illness? And when? When is the doctor telling you that you will start to feel better?
Manjushri, I don't think I will ever get better. As long as there's desire and craving, there's going to be existence. As long as there's desire, there will be samsaric existence. And until then, I, Vimalakirti, will remain unwell. Until samsaric beings are free from making distinctions and they are free from all illness. I, Vimalakirti, will be free from the sickness of subject and object.
But Vimalakirti, how did you catch this illness?
Compassion. Compassion makes bodhisattvas ill.
Very well said, Vimalakirti, but this august house of yours is desolate, empty. I don't see a nurse. I don't see attendants. Why is this place empty?
Manjushri, you, of all the people, should know Buddha fields are always empty.
But Vimalakirti, empty of what?
Empty of emptiness.
But how can emptiness be empty, Vimalakirti?
Emptiness is emptiness. To know emptiness is emptiness. And to be empty of that.
Where is that emptiness?
You will find it in the 62 wrong views.
But where do those 62 guys come from, Vimalakirti?
Those 62 wrong views arise as a display, a hue, a vibration that reflects the Tathagata Garbha, Buddha nature. You see, the source of all wrong views actually originates from the sublime.
Vimalakirti, very well expounded, but could be a little bit too much for some of us to digest.
Of course, for those of us who tend towards the puritanical, who, may be a little dualistic, who judge right from wrong. It is very scandalous.
Well, again, I don't see anyone in this house. Where are your attendants, Vimalakirti? Where are they?
Demons and those who disturb me are my attendants.
What's the nature of your illness, Vimalakirti?
Manjushri, it's invisible and it's immaterial.
Mental or physical, Vimalakirti?
It's not physical, it's not mental. You see, the body is inconsequential and it's not mental because the nature of the mind is like an illusion.
These great bodhisattvas, dignitaries, and arhats have walked all the way to Vaisali to visit this merchant, but there's nowhere for them to sit.
Sariputra, are you here for the dharma? Or are you looking for a seat? For those of us who are looking for a seat, are looking for a foundation, a dogma, somewhere to settle, somewhere to nest. You see, you can never get to the truth like that. The only way you can get to the absolute truth is by having a rug pulled beneath your feet constantly. And in this case, there is no time to settle.
But I do want the dharma. I only bring it up because I'm a guest in your home. It's only natural for me to point out that there are no mats nor chairs for us to sit on. That doesn't mean I'm not here for the dharma.
Nice one. You see, what you want to do now is settle in the three great seats of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You don't want the truth. You see, even if you were willing to settle for the cessation of suffering, even if you were willing to settle to understand the causes of suffering, you're not really looking for the truth. Let's just say, even if you settle for enlightenment, you, my friend, are like a fly. Flies like to settle on shit. And enlightenment has a very strong stink. So what you want to do, my friend, is you want to settle on enlightenment. You want to dig all your four limbs deep in, permanently, into enlightenment and settle there. Shariputra, if you want the dharma, first learn how not to want it.
Vimalakirti, how does a bodhisattva look at sentient beings?
Manjushri, a bodhisattva should look at a sentient being in the same way as a wise man, such as yourself, should look at the reflection of the moon on the water. Same way as you would look at your face in the mirror, like a mirage.
How does then a bodhisattva look at a practitioner who is on the path of progress?
Nice one. I like your question. Manjushri, you will look at a practitioner the same way as you would look at the trail of a bird. Obviously, a bird leaves no trail. So there is nothing gained, nothing abandoned, nothing adopted. There was no progress. You only know that a bird flew from here to there.
So if you're telling me that sentient beings, if the sentient beings are mirages, reflections, how does a bodhisattva then generate love for these very sentient beings that you describe as mirages and as reflections, Vimalakirti?
Manjushri, you see, when you look at a bodhisattva, when bodhisattva looks at a sentient being, the same way as a bird, as a mirage, there is no judgment. There is no deception. He is not deceived by his own view. Isn't that love?
What kind of love is that?
All kinds of love. Buddha's love, Bodhi's love, non-judgmental love, pure love, blissful love, love that has no meaning, love that has all meaning, all kinds of love.
Why are these flowers sticking to me?
What happened, Shariputra? Don't you like our flowers? Why are you trying to shrug them off?
Can't you see? I'm a monk. We must preserve our discipline. It is totally inappropriate for me to have these flowers on my robe.
But look, these bodhisattvas, these flowers don't stick on them. Is it because the bodhisattvas don't make the same distinctions as the arhats do? Maybe your fear of breaking the rule is the problem here. What do you say?
I don't know. What I do know is that these flowers are making me incredibly uncomfortable.
Shariputra, tell me, what is liberation?
Liberation is the freedom from anger, desire, and ignorance. Isn't that liberation?
Oh, really? I think that these teachings are only given to those bloated with pride. Because those who are not proud, already know that there is no such thing as anger, desire, and ignorance, and therefore there is nothing for them to shrug off.
Wait a minute. What's going on here?
What?
What happened to you?
What? What happened to me?
Well, you're a woman. What did you do in a past life that caused you to be reborn as a woman in this one?
What do you mean, Shariputra? I mean, I have been living in this house for 12 years and I have never once seen a woman. And don't you know, so-called man, woman, gender are as non-existent as a magician's magic, as the reflection of the moon in the water, which may appear to look clear and complete, but have no inherently existing nature. Oh dear Shariputra, it is so depressing for you to think in terms of gender. Why are you so obsessed with it? Wait. Is there something wrong?
Well, I certainly look very strange. But apart from that, it isn't much different being a woman compared to a man.
Isn't it? Appearances are deceptive, my friend. What made you think I'm a man? Because you saw me in a man's body a few decades ago? Is that your only reason, my friend? Because if it is, it's a very pathetic one. And so is your reason for thinking why a woman is a woman. Where is your female form now?
Well, it is no more.
No more. Shariputra, Shariputra, Shariputra. No more meaning what? How can it be no more? Since there is no truly existing gender, how can it change once, leave alone twice? Come, my friend, let's help you with these flowers.
Yes, please, let's do that.
You got a stick?
The thrones, let me create these thrones, these big ones that the bodhisattvas and the erodes to try to sit on.
My body feels so tiny compared to these vastly stupendous thrones. It just doesn't feel right to be sitting on them.
You see, some of you can't sit on these really big thrones because your mind cannot deal with the contradiction. This should not be the problem. Prostrate to the Buddha of illumination, and you will accumulate enough merit to be able to sit on these thrones. Manjushri,
Yes.
you know, really sort of fried my brains asking me these profound questions. I'd like to ask you, what makes a Buddha? What ingredients would go into creating a Buddha? And the second one, what family, a caste, tribe should a Buddha belong to?
Well, Vimalakirti, emotions are the ingredients of a Buddha. Anger, passion, desire, they are the Buddha family. Now you see, if you plant a seed in the sky, that guy is not going to blossom into a flower. Buddhas do not arise from uncompounded phenomena. For Buddhas, or for that matter, enlightenment to arise, you need, Vimalakirti, compounded phenomena.
Very well. Bodhisattvas, may I ask you guys a question? Can somebody answer? What is non-duality?
Non-duality is when I and mind collapse.
Non-duality is when you go beyond defilement and purification.
When you go beyond the virtuous and the non-virtuous, that is non-duality.
When you go beyond the mundane and the sublime, that is non-duality.
And if you're looking for liberation and you don't want to go to samsara, that is duality.
When concept sees non-duality,
There's one any more? Finished? This is the last. Okay. Actually, this was an appropriate answer to your question from the Mahayana point of view. Actually, this episode is really, really big. And there's some important questions here. When the questions from Manjushri, he's talking about where does the delusion come from? And the answer is really, it's a supposedly very shocking answer, because the answer is the duality come from from the wisdom mind. That aspect, that answer is fully explained and elaborated in the Tantra. Much more. Of course, this is a Mahayana, so this level. And then there's one aspect where he says, where are your attendants? Manjushri asks, where are your attendants? And he says, my emotions, my defilements are my attendants. That's also really, really important, because attendants are, people who do things for you. They are helpful. They are very, they are useful and they assist you. So your emotions is also your assistance to the path, to the enlightenment. And I forgot, there's another one in this episode. If I remember, I will tell you. Okay. We will continue with the question. Yeah.
Rinpoche, you spoke earlier about the biggest danger is not the ego being super big like a mountain, but it was being attached to emptiness. In the meditation that you taught us about being aware of your mind or your thoughts, is it possible to get into a state where you use that awareness almost as a refuge or as a hideout?
For now, you have no choice.
Okay.
Yeah, for now. But if you keep on doing that, the great thing about, the four categories I was talking about, the great thing about the path that is within these four categories is it is all carefully designed to erode itself. That's sort of the Buddhist path. The Buddhist path is designed to shrug off itself. It's designed like that. It's never, for instance, like almost all the path, let's say 6 parameters. So we have the generosity, beginning with the generosity. And there's even an explanation of why generosity first, even though it doesn't really matter. There's no order or there's no hierarchy. But generosity, practice of generosity is taught first and to the common people, because this is what they hear, and this is what people who are more dualistically oriented thinks, that generosity is a good act, it's a wholesome act, it is the right thing to do, it is the compassionate thing to do, so on and so forth. But as you go more, generosity gets a little bit dented when you hear the discipline, so on and so forth. And then finally we hear the teachings on the prajna, wisdom. Then we now realize that without the prajna, without the wisdom, all the other are just another binding, path. It will not liberate you. So this is how sort of, canceling each other, if you like. Even the practice of shamatha and vipassana is like this. Like a shamatha is a technique to calm your mind, make your mind malleable, make your mind workable, control your mind. But is that what the Buddhists are interested in? Controlling your mind? Absolutely not. Calm mind? Is this what Buddhists are looking for? Absolutely not. Then what is it that we are looking for? Understanding, deciphering the truth of the mind. So you use the technique to calm your mind to understand the mind. Moment you understand the mind, even the paranoia of whether you are calm or not is collapse. So all the techniques are like this. Techniques are all designed like this. All the way from the Sharvakayana to the Tantrayana. Okay, there's a question. There's been the lady here. Yeah.
Rinpoche, you said yesterday that emotions are the ingredients of wisdom. And in this very episode also that was played out. Now, can you, and this gentleman's question also, can you give us some techniques outside of Vajrayana? Because we are taught in Sutrayana to, stay like a piece of wood in the face of anger and all of that. So can you just give us some techniques?
There's a two. One, relative bodhicitta. And even the relative bodhicitta, if you want to hear more the Vimalakirti version, he would say, you should aspire, may all the other people's desire or anger come to you. You understand? That's the more sort of the Vimalakirti would deal with that. It's in the text somewhere. I can't find it right away. So it's like, instead, okay, you have a sort of this sense of looking down as something negative, but instead of, like you trying to shrug it off and purify this so that you can be good and pure and, like sublime, you ask all the others garbage to come to you. This way, what it does is it dents your righteousness, selfishness, self-cherishing, all of this. And when that gets dented quite hard, then the base of the desire and the base of the emotion is lost. So that's how they deal with it. Ultimately, you are to apply the shunyata, but that one is what we have been talking. If you have a desire, and this is, people may think it's a Vajrayana, but it is not. Vajrayana has this, but also in the Mahayana, if you have a desire, instead of looking down at it, no more looking down now. Not only not looking down, you also do not stop, you do not suppress, you do not reject, you don't even call it a desire. You do not even label it. You just watch. Like a baby looking at a fresco without any name, you just watch. And what happens is, the toilet, peeing example, what it does is it then dissipates. But then disappearing and the falling apart, the desire, this then becomes a problem for the young bodhisattvas, because then you will think, it's working. Then you begin to develop sense of victory, and this then, I was saying earlier, you begin to love your antidote. So you cherish your antidote. This is where you have to be careful. So Mahayana master would say, if they disappear, don't get excited. Well, you can't help it. You will get excited, of course. But if you are getting excited, watch that also. So continuously watch. Sometimes you watch, desire is so stubbornly there, sitting, not disappearing. Then you get frustrated. My meditation is not working. This watching is not doing anything. Because, you have this idea that it should go. The dualistic education is so strong. The moment you ask for an instruction from a master, you are already aiming to eliminate it, isn't it? So that habit will always come from here, from there. So even when you apply, there's a hidden aim to get rid of it. And when you finally sometimes manage to get rid of it, you get caught by that sense of being able to get rid of it. But at that time, all you remember, as the Vimalakirti would say, just be aware. Now, I want to qualify this here a little bit. This is not like the standard mindfulness that people are talking about. And the reason is you are looking for that particular enlightenment that I defined, the result of elimination. That needs to be there. If you don't have that, then your meditation or your watching will become materialistic. So that's how you have to secure your spiritual path, so to speak. Okay? Yes, please.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I was just thinking, going through the talks yesterday and today, as far as I appreciate the Mahayana view, there seems to be a certain sense of, there's a sense that the Shavakayana path, the Sutrayana path, of really reining in your senses and sort of working with, like, checking on your senses, reining in your senses is probably the wrong view, a path like fraught with danger and potholes. I mean, I appreciate that we might get attached to being non-attached and like the sense of being too attached to our techniques and like what you were mentioning earlier. But isn't that the Shavagana path of cultivating awareness a sort of graduating path into the Mahayana path? So it seems to me that if I was getting into Vajrayana and Mahayana completely straight away with a mind that is distracted, then I would do exactly what you just said, just like grasping onto material views. So what do you think about that?
In fact, if you go to tantric teachings, and if it is totally properly taught, the first thing they will want you to do is Sharvakayana training. It is there in the Hevajra Tantra, in the Kalachakra Tantra. All the Tantra has that. The Sharvakayana emphasis on mind training is paramount. It's really, really important. But it is the step. Otherwise, the whole teachings on the Four Noble Truths is pointless. It's a bit like attention. We need to draw your attention from here to here first. It's the closest thing. Then once you reach here or even closer to this, then we have another sort of aim. Of course. But since we are using the Vimalakirti at the moment, so of course the whole thing is about Vimalakirti, everything, like, or the enactment and, like the, but I think not everyone, but some of us need to know the Vimalakirti wisdoms. You understand? Because then I think when you can understand the non-duality sense of the path, you will then gain some confidence. It's doable also. Otherwise, fighting with the emotion is a really, really big battle. And it's really takes time, and it could really discourage you. And then people have also no time. It's a bit like there's a saying in the Dharma. There's two ways to approach. One is through meditation you reach the view. The other is first you have a view and then meditate. Both are important, I think. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Rinpoche. The whole Vimalakirti Sutra is staged, and Buddha is there at the background. That gives a very beautiful. That adds a lot of beauty to the sutra, but it also adds a kind of a doubt, because we see Vimalakirti speaking, we hear Manjushri speaking, then we see a goddess also coming in and delivering some wisdom into it. But the Tathagata is not into the picture. So that kind of doubt remains. That is this sutra really to be considered as a sutra, or is this to be seen as a communication between two?
As I was saying, yesterday, this is considered Buddha Vachana, which is the teachings of the Buddha. Many reasons. Okay. One, even between the Manjushri and the Manjushri with the Vimalakirti, and the Shariputra and the Vimalakirti, there's two occasions. I don't remember. I can't find the page number right away. There's two occasions they decided to be silent. I don't know whether you remember. There is two occasions, and supposedly these two moments are the source reference for what we now know as a Zen Buddhism or Chan Buddhism in China. They really, that become a big thing. Like if you go to China or Japan, the practice of really facing the wall for 9 years or 9 days became such a big thing, taking the silent vow, all that. Buddha's act of not talking, because the ultimate truth cannot, this is what he said, ultimate truth cannot be uttered. It cannot, what do you call it, come within the context of language and example and logic and analogy. It's inexpressible. That need to be somehow addressed, you understand? And since as a teacher in this context, he has the highest authority, he used the highest way of communicating or addressing this through silence, through just observation. And speaking, arguing, language, logic, debate is a more mundane people's act, so to speak. You understand? So then he has this Vimalakirti, Manjushri, sort of the second tier, teachers doing the job. He comes back, by the way, towards the end. He says, oh, good. You have all done very well. And that is important. And also, right at the beginning, his act of making 500 something umbrella into one umbrella, that's supposedly the quintessence of the Vimalakirti teaching, because he's talking about 1 and 100, no difference. It's all concept. And the Buddha field, remember the all that. This is not only with this sutra, it's with many, many sutras. Even the Prajanaparamita Hridaya Sutra is like that. It's a discussion between his disciples. It's not really directly him actually speaking. Any kind of so the teachings that requires more and more interpretations, he actually used his mouth. So like a Jataka Mala Sutra, there he actually said, once I was a bird, once I was a monkey, I saved this and that. He actually used the language. So the contents is also more common, and also the style is more common, and the language, the medium is also more common. As the teaching gets higher, setup also becomes much more uncommon. Like the Four Noble Truths Sutra, setup is very, very common. Under the tree, 5 monks, on the top of a flat stone, something that is perceivable. But once the sutra becomes more deeper and more profound and more non-dual, then it becomes really, really mind-boggling. It's surreal. I mean, where he sit, what he did. There's a whole chapter about the smell of a food or something like that. Do you remember? There's a, all that surreal. All these in the eyes and the ears of dualistic beings is like a fairy tale. If you think this is like a fairy tale, you should read Avatamsaka Sutra. Someone in California, there's a Buddhist professor, he told me that Avatamsaka Sutra is like Star Wars 10 times. Like it's really, really completely out there. But it's like this, non-dual teaching need to be taught with that kind of setting. Otherwise, it's very difficult to express. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So this awareness, we are kind of presuming that the view is already established, and then we are doing this awareness practice. So some light on how the view can be established and what's the role of analytical meditation in
Oh,
this?
very big role. We are at the moment, the whole purpose when the organizer here, when we were talking about the teaching this time, we decided to choose this because we just thought maybe it's really important that Indians, I mean, Buddhist students in general, Indians, especially younger generations, they really need to be reminded the gem, sort of the very, very, what do you call it, precious wisdom that actually came in India, not just recently, 2,500 years ago. Some of the, I mean, not some, almost all of them. This is what I said, you know, as it was in the earlier episode. Don't you think you could, you know, this, that, you know, only now the modern world is talking about gender problems, gender issues. This existed in the Buddhist scripture 2,500 years ago. And it's dealt in a much, much better way from my point of view. Because, you know, so it's very difficult, of course. The subject is very difficult. It's not easily chewable. But at least if it is mentioned and also demonstrated very dramatically, at least we were hoping that at least it will make people curious. Having said that, in the traditional Buddhist schools, like a Shedras, we don't study this. We study the commentary to this. So there are a lot of commentaries written by people like Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Dharmakirti, Asanga, and those have a really good analytical method. And it's very, very important. Hearing and contemplation is absolutely important. And this is one advice Buddha gave us: never take the teachings at its face value. Always analyze. Never rely on the teacher, but rely on the teaching. Never rely on the expedient teachings, but rely on the ultimate teachings, so on and so forth. So it has a lot of roles to play. Be analytical.
So one question which came to me just when I started reading the sutra was the decision of the Buddha to not visit Vimalakirti himself. Is that just to stage this entire thing, or there's some hidden teaching in that as well?
There's several versions, I think. Yes, one is what as you thought. Because we need to know why those other bodhisattvas and the monks were offended. Their feeling is very important. Their feeling and their attitude represents our attitude. I mean, the Ananda's attitude is it's a really good one. That need to be said. Another explanation is respect by the Buddha to Vimalakirti as someone who has reached very high bhumi. And it's important because here Vimalakirti is appearing as very ordinary. You know, usually a spiritual person is always, the image of the spiritual person is always like a renouncant monk or a, you know, sannyasin. But he's totally the opposite. So a very sophisticated way of respecting him by sending all his disciples, basically, one by one, and then finally the most mighty Manjushri with everyone together. And then, of course, the Vimalakirti visits him. Okay. I think, are they ready? Okay, I think we have one more Vimalakirti's manifestation coming.
Siddhartha,
Namaste, Vimalakirti ji.
what are you doing?
I'm offering Mia and Jay cookies to these wonderful people.
Do you think this is genuine generosity?
Well, what do you think, Vimalakirti ji?
Absolutely not.
What's your point?
You should be offering these people the truth.
That's so true, Vimalakirti ji, yes.
You should be offering them love, compassion, equanimity. This is what you should be offering.
I'm really impressed by your words, Vimalakirti ji. May I take a selfie with you? Vimalakirti ji, will you please accept these offerings and do what you want with them?
It's okay, thank you. I don't want it.
Please, Vimalakirti ji, I insist. And wait, I have a priceless necklace that I would like to offer to you as well.
Priceless necklace. Very well. Hey! Hey, come here. Brother! Come. Here, this is a priceless necklace. Keep it. Come. Come. It's all good. Come.
Well, again here, if I think this is a point where they were talking about merit, good karma. Even on the relative level, of course, forget ultimate level. Merit, the way you accumulate merit, Mahayana talks about two fields. It's believed that you accumulate merit by making offerings to the Buddhas, but the other field of merit is a sentient being. They are equal. This is another Mahayana, what do you call it? Mahayana wisdom. Sentient beings are equal in rank as an object of to whom you venerate. I think this is a sort of good note to conclude our introduction to the world of Vimalakirti and his wisdom. As I said, it's a very, very high and ultimate teachings, but hopefully this has rose some curiosity with some of you. I need to tell you that this is not just a mere philosophy to read and enjoy intellectually. There is a whole complete path that is tested, practiced by all walks of life, kings, queens, merchants, hunters, soldiers, monks, nuns. It has gone to many, many different parts of the world. Now it's reaching West. Many in the West are also inspired by the teachings such as the Vimalakirti's teaching that really gives us the gem of non-duality. I hope that this will once again flourish in the mind and heart of the Indians. Okay. So with this, we will end here.